I told my therapist I went on a date with Spider-Man. She looked at me and said, Spider-Man? Like the actual Spider-Man? I nodded. She shook her head, sighed, and started writing something down. I said, He saved my life. Without looking up, she muttered, What kind of life were you living when that happened? I told her I was standing on the edge of a rooftop, blindfolded, eating a tuna sandwich. She asked, What kind of sandwich? I said, Tuna. She just nodded, continued. I told her I just needed air, maybe a little danger. I was flirting with death and mayonnaise. But things got real when I slipped off the ledge. I screamed. And then Spider Man came out of nowhere. He caught my sandwich first. What about me? I yelled. He scooped me up midair, one arm, full swoop. It was impressive. And because I'm emotionally reckless, the first thing I said was, Are you single? He hesitated, then noticed the crowd below, phones out, news cameras rolling. Yeah, totally. Want to grab coffee? And just like that, we were dating, apparently. He prepared a rooftop dinner, table for two. Coffee was still hot. It was romantic, I thought, until a news crew showed up with boom mics. He said, Ignore them. I tried, but they were shouting things like, Spider Man, is this a pity date or a PR stunt? He said, It's a pity date. I laughed. You're kidding, right? He didn't laugh. Then he stood up, said, I have to go. There's crime. He shot a web, swung off the rooftop, did a double backflip midair, and immediately smacked into a pigeon. The pigeon survived, but my self worth didn't. A few nights later, he showed up at my window. Not my door, my third floor window. I was in a robe, eating cereal, watching a documentary about sea otters. Tap, tap. I looked up. There he was, crouched like a feral cat with commitment issues. My therapist asked, You let him in? I said, Of course. He bought churros. She muttered, The gateway pastry. He said, He just wanted to talk. I offered him a seat. He stood in the corner, staring at the ceiling. I asked what was wrong. He said, I think my mask is giving me migraines. My therapist muttered, I think I'm getting a migraine. Then he noticed the otter documentary. Is that about sea otters? He asked. I nodded. Yeah. He jumped over my coffee table, grabbed me, and whispered, Something about you and sea otters gets me horny. Then he dropped me, literally. He picked me back up and said, I like you, but I don't know how to be emotionally available. I said, Don't worry. I'll teach you how to feel against your will. And then we kissed. It was awkward. His mask stayed half on. I didn't know where to put my nose. His web shooter kept going off. At one point, we both apologized at the same time. My therapist chimed in. So it was romantic and humiliating. Sounds like your usual foreplay. I said, It wasn't that bad. She said, You got webbed to your own fridge. I said, Only for a minute. We were mid kiss, still stuck to the fridge. Then his wrist buzzed. He looked down and said, Emergency, baby stroller, traffic. I didn't even flinch. I said, If it was meant to live, it'll live. He stared at me. I shrugged. I said, Hey, you don't believe in free will? He nodded like I had a point, then said, Still, I should probably go. I grabbed his hand. I asked him, Do you really want to go? Or is it just that you don't want to be here? He blinked, didn't say anything for a second, then finally said, You're intense, like emotionally. And then he swung out the window, not toward the baby, toward a taco truck. My therapist said, So he ditched you for tacos? I shrugged. Apparently. She nodded. Honestly, he made the better choice. And while I'm pouring my heart out to my therapist, we hear a tap tap. My therapist and I both turned toward the window. It was him, Spidey, back again, casually crouched there, like he took a break from streaming Shark Tank to witness my rock bottom. I asked, So you are in love with me? He shook his head and said, No, I just figured it was better to disappoint you now than ghost you later. My therapist, she didn't say a word. She just slipped a receipt across the table. Therapy session number 31. Delusional webbing, no refunds. no respect.